Hey everyone, Doug here with B&H. Wireless video is a much bigger part of video productions than it used to be just a few years ago, and so today we're looking at two devices from Accsoon, the CineEye 2S and 2S Pro. Both of these connect to almost any video camera to transmit clear, low-latency wireless video across the set. Now that could be anyone from a producer/director who can't be near their camera operator, or an entire video village that needs to keep a watchful eye on what the camera sees. With support for SDI and HDMI on both models, the CineEye 2S and 2S Pro can work on almost any set. Both the CineEye 2S and 2S Pro share a lot of the same main specs, but where they differ is in the applications. The regular 2S is a small, self-contained unit that streams out high-quality wireless video exclusively to Accsoon's mobile app, which can also operate as a professional video monitor, and it includes a whole slew of monitoring tools such as waveforms, histograms, custom LUTs, frame guides, and more. The video is encoded in 1080p up to 60 FPS, and the units offer different quality settings to prioritize transmission speed or visual quality. So in an environment where wireless signals are difficult to transmit due to crowds or sheer distance, you have some flexibility. We're going to test out the signal strength later on, but for now, just know that this all operates on ad hoc Wi-Fi, so all you have to do is connect your smartphone to the Wi-Fi signal of the CineEye unit. An OLED screen displays all the main stats, including input signal type, codec used, wireless signal strength, and the wireless channel and group information. Flip-out antennas let the unit communicate up to a quoted 492 feet. The CineEye 2S Pro, on the other hand, takes the same basic idea of the 2S, but provides it with 4 detachable antennas, a dedicated receiver unit, and the ability to broadcast to both the receiver and multiple smartphones or tablets. The dedicated receiver operates up to a quoted 1,200-foot range, making the 2S Pro ideal for large stadiums, arenas, outdoor performances, or cinematic productions that take place across long distances. Now, both the CineEye 2S and 2S Pro use the same Accsoon app, and connecting to both units was effortless. So, how do they work in the field? So visually, the image from both units is pretty solid and it's identical. On the 2S at least, we've hooked up the unit via HDMI to the Panasonic GH5 and set the camera to output 1080p. I set the unit itself for the high quality mode and previewed the image instantly on the Accsoon app. You could of course see that this is a compressed image, but overall image detail remains sharp and accurate for judging exposure, color, and sharpness. Moving on to the 2S Pro, as I said, the image quality is basically identical from what I can tell. The unit has the same menus as the regular 2S, meaning it also has the same video quality options. In high quality mode, the image looks great as expected, and previewing simultaneously on both the receiver unit and the smartphone app didn't affect performance or visual quality. Monitor differences aside, the images looked identical. Now, quality is of course important, but when it comes to wireless video, latency is perhaps even more critical, especially in fast-paced productions. Accsoon claims a very low latency on both units of under 60 milliseconds. Now, unfortunately, from what I could see in testing, the latency definitely exceeded 60 milliseconds, both in the app preview and on the 2S Pro's dedicated receiver, and changing the quality mode to the speed setting didn't seem to affect latency much at all. To be fair, it's possible that this is an early firmware issue or a setting that I've overlooked, but with the latency as it is, it's probably safe to rule out focus pulling. As a general video monitor to producers, directors, and Video Village, however, both units are fantastic. Actually using the CineEye units is what stood out to me the most. It's almost unbelievably easy to get started, and the 2S in particular can be set up in mere seconds. The wireless channel is selected automatically by default, but you can also set this up manually to avoid wireless conflicts or find the strongest signal. Once I connected my phone over Wi-Fi and opened the app, the video signal loaded instantly. The wireless channel and video quality can be configured through the unit itself, while wireless password information can be changed through the app. Other than that, there's little that needs to be set up. At the bottom of the app screen, you'll see a bevy of monitoring functions including histograms, peaking, waveforms, zebras, and frame grids. There's even functions here that I didn't really expect to see at all, like anamorphic desqueezing and LUT/CDL support. You can select from some of the pre-installed LUTs, or even load in your own from your phone's storage. The 2S Pro is also pretty easy to use, with identical menus to the 2S. Since the Pro unit can actually connect to multiple receivers at once, there's a physical group dial on the right side of both the transmitter and the receiver. The specific channel is still selected, however, through the menus. The dial locks in pretty securely, so this shouldn't change easily when in use. The receiver unit connects over HDMI or SDI to a compatible monitor and displays the video feed instantly. Now, as I said before, I had no issues connecting both the receiver and the app to the 2S Pro at the same time. The major test I wanted to conduct between the two units, though, was the reported distance covered by the wireless signal. We tried the CineEye 2S Pro first, as it allowed us to watch the receiver's feed on a dedicated monitor. Next, I walked under the High Line here and up 11th Avenue, where I could ensure line of sight between the devices. It also let me stay in touch with my camera operator, who told me when the signal became unreliable. In Manhattan, of course, open wireless spectrum isn't exactly easy to find, but I was able to maintain a reliable signal at about 548 feet from the receiver. Now, before drawing any conclusions about this, it is important to realize how crowded the airwaves can be here. But more importantly, we didn't test the different group and channel arrangements possible, which might have offered us better range. With the regular CineEye 2S though, I was actually pretty impressed, as the Wi-Fi signal alone was able to reach the receiving iPhone at 374 feet away. Not quite as far as listed in the specs, but much closer to the spec, and honestly, very good still considering it's an all-in-one device. In a more controlled environment with less crowded airwaves and time to test optimal wireless channels, both devices could probably reach a little bit farther. The CineEye 2S and 2S Pro, despite their similar feature set, do look a bit different from one another. The 2S is very compact, intended to be placed either on top of a camera's hot shoe with the included adapter, or rigged up as part of a bigger camera rig. It's small enough though, at only 4.3 by 2.7 by 1.2 inches, or 108 by 69.30 millimeters, to not overwhelm a mirrorless camera body. And at only 0.5 pounds, or 213 grams, it's incredibly light. The solid construction is also very apparent as soon as you unbox the unit, and the foldable antennas make it easy to store. Now, even though the 2S is aimed at smaller setups, it's really nice to see both HDMI and SDI support here. There's also a USB-C connection that's intended for remote camera control over USB-C, with cameras that support that functionality. Power-wise, the 2S takes either a DC input barrel connection or a Sony L-series style battery. In our case, we used an NPF 750 type battery, which didn't add much to the size and weight, and the CineEye 2S honestly just sipped power from it. We didn't do a power drain to test the length, but as the unit only consumes 4 watts of power, it should last for a pretty long time on set. The 2S Pro has a much different appearance, though it does share the same OLED display and 3-button arrangement as the 2S. With a more vertically oriented design, the quarter 20 thread is located directly on the bottom, meaning that while you can mount this on a hot shoe as we've done here, the positioning might be a little bit awkward on a smaller camera body, as you can kind of see. Ideally, you'd probably mount this to a camera rig's cage, dovetail plate, or perhaps even an articulated monitor arm that can angle the unit out of the camera's way. The detachable antennas can rotate and bend at 90 degrees, letting you position them as needed for the best signal. SDI and HDMI connections are located on the left side, while the group selection dial and USB-C ports are located on the right side. The rear, like the 2S, utilizes an L-series battery and also supports DC barrel power as well. Power consumption of the 2S Pro is only slightly higher at 4.5 watts on the transmitter and 5.5 watts on the receiver, so they should also last a very long time on any production. Physically, the transmitter and receiver are almost identical, right down to the button placement and menus. About the only real difference is the labeling of the units. Both of them even have the same dimensions of 4.9 by 3.1.2 inches, or 125 by 77 by 31 millimeters, and an identical weight of 0.6 pounds or 260 grams. Wireless video transmission for cinema and broadcast production has really come into its own lately. The CineEye 2S provides high-quality wireless video to any mobile device and does it with a level of ease I've yet to see anywhere else. What's more, the monitoring tools are way more capable than I expected to see here, and on a larger tablet, for example, I could see this being a possible replacement for a dedicated video monitor. The CineEye 2S Pro takes that a step further, making wireless video accessible to multiple receivers on set and multiple mobile devices. For bigger productions, this could be the best way to get a wireless video feed to multiple crew members who can't get close to the action. Both units are easy to use and can fit into almost any production. So that's it for the Accsoon CineEye 2S and 2S Pro. I'm Doug with B&H, and I'll see you next time.